Hey, everybody. So, as you can see, I'm Megan Jackson, the social media specialist for Meditec, and look, I am by myself. I don't have an admissions advisor with me this week, so slightly a little bit more nervous than normal. But what I'd like to say is that this is our amazing kickoff event for our back to school month here at Meditec. So pretty much what we're starting off with is the top 10 back to school tips for military spouses. And why would I have an admissions advisor for that? They aren't students. I've been getting tips from our actual students that are military spouses and taking our programs currently. So basically, for this episode, we'll be going over the top 10 tips I gathered from our students, but I also have a few updates for you first. So one big thing is there's a major change in Google+. So as you can see, there's the Showcase app, which I think is to the right of your screen. But we will be having a Q&A at the end of this session. So what you can do is hit that toggle button right in the top right corner. It looks like a box with a bunch of squares in it, and you can toggle between the Showcase app and the Q&A app. So just make sure if you have any questions or you want to share any of your tips with the audience that you do so through that Q&A app. But otherwise, we do have some awesome prizes going on for back to school month. So first things first is there is a campaign for start school with the tools you need for success. So we are actually doing a drawing for 2 Dell laptops. Amazing, right? I know people need laptops to go to online school, so that can be really helpful. And basically, drawing for 2 laptops, but you have to start courses before August 31st. And I do want to note that you can't just start talking to us at August 30th. It does take around 15 days to get signed up, so if you'd like to be entered for that raffle for one of those 2 laptops, you should go to the Showcase app where it says sign up for a free session with an admissions advisor and start talking to us. So if you'd like to win those, that's kind of the process for that. Also, we are continuing to offer our referral incentives. So if you get a friend to enroll, you will receive $200, and that's if they enroll, not if they just talk. So just to let you know, in case you have some friends that need that nudge and you need some extra pocket money, that is what you can do. So otherwise, I'm going to jump right into our top 10 tips for military spouses. And I'm going to be jumping back and forth between a presentation and the webcast of myself. So may have a little bit of technical difficulties, but hang in there with me, okay? So let me get this up. Okay, so top 10 back-to-school tips for military spouses. Okay, so the big tip number 1, be prepared with the right materials. So we got a lot of feedback from a lot of different students talking about they didn't really know exactly what to expect when they did an online school, and they'd been out of school for a while, so they were a little confused on exactly what they needed on their end. Like, obviously you need the books, you need access to the courses, but what should you be getting in order to prepare yourself? And a lot of tips that we got were have a comfy chair, also to get a few notebooks and highlighters, as well as pencils, pens, scratch paper, and again, notebooks. So notebooks are super important. And also, it's a good point to note that the comfy chair should not be super comfy because you don't want to be falling asleep during your class. So just make sure that you have those materials before you get started on our courses. Okay, so and tip number 2, have a designated workspace. So this actually came as a tip from Mitzi Graham, our community outreach manager, who is in fact an ex-military spouse who did use the MICA grant and actually take online courses. So she majorly suggested, you know, having that comfy but not too comfy chair, but having a designated workspace. So you can keep all of your books, you can keep all of your materials, you can just make sure that that you have a space that you have designated as your own, and you kind of keep in your mind that you need to be working. Also, a good thing to note, and I actually learned this as a mentor at the University of Texas at Austin, is to make sure that that designated workspace is in your bedroom, especially if you have major problems sleeping, if you do have insomnia. What happens is psychologically, people tend to mark areas as different areas of activity. So if you end up studying or doing crazy things like in your actual room, your body will actually wake up like when you're supposed to go to bed or something like that. So try not to study or make that designated workspace your bed, because then your brain will actually think, hey, I need to be up, I need to be going rather than sleeping. So also, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so tip number 3, get organized. And of course you need to get organized, but how exactly do students suggest that you do that? So as far as feedback that we got, Natalie Tate, who is one of our students, said, I like to print out a monthly calendar and schedule it in what is due on what day. Plan ahead in case you have something coming up and you can rearrange your schedule. So definitely a big thing, and I'm actually going to put the view back on me, is definitely you want to make sure that you have that organizational calendar or that planner, because of the fact that you may forget some of these things. And believe me, like I said, I was a mentor at UT, and there's so many people who, you know, forget the test the day that it's coming up, or they come to class and they're like, crap. And I understand that this is an online school, but you don't want to, you know, get off of your schedule or your plan simply because you don't have it written down. And there are actual dates that things are due, so you want to make sure that those are actually written down and that you're keeping that in mind. If anything, have a to-do list. If you feel like maybe having the full calendar is a little bit too much, having that to-do list each day and checking off your things could be really helpful. But also, it's a good time, it's a good way to keep track of the nap times of your kiddos or play dates that may be going on, so then you can keep in mind, oh, okay, that's a good time to study. Okay, or hey, I have a test coming up on Thursday. I probably should set a play date for that whole day so I can study. Okay, so now let me go ahead and go back to our presentation. Okay, so tip number 4, tricks to stay focused. And I love these tricks. So the big thing, let me see if I have any. Okay, I don't have any testimonials, but these are things that I actually grabbed from students, was that it's obviously very easy to get distracted and not stay focused. So one thing that you want to make sure to do is kind of either pick your music, something that can help you, or one big thing is a website blocker. And I've actually included a link, and it's in the Showcase app that you can use. It's at hackmystudy.com. There is a really awesome app that you can download that actually can block specific websites like Facebook or Tumblr. You know, you don't want to fall down the Tumblr rabbit hole while you're studying. And you can block them for a certain period of time, you know, during your designated 2 hours of studying. And then also another major tip is, as far as staying focused, is to pick the right music. So one major thing that we got from a lot of different students, sorry, my chair is a little squeaky, but one thing that we got from a lot of students was the fact that they actually go onto YouTube and there's these, you know, 2-hour sessions of classical music. So you don't necessarily have to go out and buy classical music or anything like that. YouTube actually has videos that do that. So if you like, you know, kind of having some noise and something to kind of make studying feel a little less daunting, that could be really helpful. And then also, I really like classical music, but after a while it gets kind of like meh. It's just, you know, keeping an eye out for non-lyrical artists. I particularly really like Four-Tet, F-O-U-R, the word four, and then Tet, T-E-T. It's a really, really awesome band that actually has no lyrics, but it's not classical. And I know some people think classical music is either boring or, you know, it makes them fall asleep. So, and another thing, this is actually from Natalie again as well. She said that she would have her husband play Xbox because she hates Xbox. She, otherwise would want to get on the TV or play the TV, and that would majorly distract her. So she would ask her husband, hey, can you go play Xbox? It'll make me go into, my den or whatever and actually start studying. So if there's something like that, some little quirky thing that you feel like you need to do and you need to call in the cavalry and have them help you, go ahead. Okay, so next tip that we got, tip number 5, have a designated study time. And we actually have multiple people say this because obviously being an online school and military spouses largely taking advantage of online schools because of moving and stuff like that, we have to have designated times to sit down and study. So, and a lot of people had a lot of advice on that. So we actually got a statement from Kwa Grabowski, and she said, my tips will be study, study, and study, so you will graduate fast and move on with your career faster. There is no time to waste with something else. Making a schedule for yourself is going to help you reach your goal faster and prevent you from wasting your time on other things. A little blunt, but totally a good set of advice. And then also, again, from Mitzi, so she said, definitely set aside time for yourself to study, get comfy, but not too comfy. Try to schedule, or try to set a schedule for yourself, just as you do for your kids. When you get a routine set, it is easier to stick to. So obviously, having that structure for your kiddos isn't just good for them, it's also having that structure for yourself is good for you and for them. So just basically plan your study time as if you're planning something for your kiddos. So maybe you have, a weekly or bi-weekly play date for them, and that could actually be your study time. And that actually leads into my next set of advice or our next set of advice is tip number 6, get a study buddy. And that isn't just a study buddy like, hey, can you help me study? Like, obviously you can set up friends and do either conference calls or Skype calls and try and study with each other or work with our instructors, but also getting a study buddy as in somebody who can watch your kiddos for you while you're studying, so you're not trying to juggle, studying and keeping your eye on your kid who's trying to get in the cabinet because he wants Oreos or something. So we actually got an advice from Brandy Norris, who on Facebook when I posted, and she said, with 3 kids at home all day during the summer, it has been hard getting time at home to study. I make a point to go to the library after dinner for a few hours as often as I can. I find it so much easier to concentrate. It really helps that my husband is not on a ship out to sea right now, though. Obviously, it does certainly help. So if you have a husband who is deployed, because I can totally see why you would want to kind of like take a moment for yourself and work on your education while he's deployed, you can definitely have a conversation with your neighbor or with your parents if they're around and see if they can, help you in your kind of educational endeavor. Okay, so tip number 7. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And this was suggested, oh my goodness, ridiculous amounts of time. So a lot of people, I guess, were, really focusing on how coming back to education after a while, after you've, graduated high school, you may even have some college or graduated from college, can be really intimidating. Just having that time where you just didn't have school can be really scary. And so just don't be intimidated. Make sure that you understand that people are there to help you. So ask questions if you don't understand. And this I'm going to read a few suggestions that I got from different people. Alyssa Chance said, don't be afraid to ask for help. The Meditec team is amazing. Oh, thanks, Alyssa. So make time for yourself. I know it's cliche, but set aside at least 1 hour a day where you can study and make sure to ask those questions. And then another set of advice from Rosalind Beavers: if you don't understand a section the instructor presented, ask questions. If you're too shy to ask in front of the class, ask the professor during office hours. Know your learning style and find the most efficient ways to retain information for exams. So it sounds like that was more from a college atmosphere or a brick and mortar school. But if you're kind of nervous, asking questions on Yammer in front of everybody, you can really easily send an email to our instructors, set up a time to talk to them on the phone or Skype with them. They're definitely open to doing that. And then the next set of advice from Sally Rojas: when I attended Meditec, I kept a notebook with the questions I had, the question number and the module number. I would email my professor and give as much detail about the question as possible that I didn't understand, and the question that I did understand, so the part she understood and the part that she didn't understand, in order to make it clear. So this made it easier for both of us to be on the same page, so when she emailed or called me, yes, they will call you, she put in parentheses, she was able to thoroughly explain the question to me. So that's kind of the issue with the online aspect of the school, is that if you have questions, you need to be really clear on exactly what you understand and what you don't understand. So making sure that you really take detailed notes when you're in a particular module can be really helpful, so you don't end up forgetting later on and then it comes up on one of the tests or one of the homeworks or something like that. Okay. So next thing, so tip number 8, don't get frustrated. We all have learning curves. And I think this is kind of an expansion off of tip number 7. It's just don't let your frustration shut you down. Don't let it take your power. So if you're getting frustrated, maybe you should walk away for a little bit and come back to the question. Or set aside a time to really reach out to our instructors. I know Anna and Audrey would love to help you, as well as Carrie and everybody else. So just make sure that you don't let this prevent you from learning what you can. So, and just realize that especially the math part, you haven't done math in 10 years or something because you just haven't had the need to do that. It's going to take a while to get your brain back in that that atmosphere, that kind of attitude. So, and this piece of advice that kind of sprung this tip was also from Mitzi: always remember that there is someone that is willing to help and listen and will not judge you. A lot of people have learning curves and do not want to ask for assistance. We must make them feel like they are in a great comfort zone and can ask for help with anything course related. You have to be a therapist sometimes too. So realize that our instructors and everybody in Meditec understands that there are learning curves and that we're going to need, to help some people more than others, and that's really not that big of a deal. That's what we're here for. So, okay, now I'm going to go on to tip number 9. So utilize your resources. So this is a big thing, is when you're asking questions, or you may be getting frustrated, just make sure that you're aware of all of the things that your school offers to you. So it's not only just making sure that you have the right materials and then you're highlighting your book and underlining and really reading all of the actual course resources that are provided, but it's also, using Yammer. So if you don't know what Yammer is, because I know it's kind of a weird social media kind of platform it's kind of blocked from people. Like if you haven't worked at an organization that's used Yammer before, you probably have no idea what it is. But essentially it's like Facebook, and that's what we use for our students to come together and post questions and get in contact with the different instructors, as well as Patricia, who's our career services counselor. It's definitely a place that you can come and really post questions and get in contact with people really quickly. Like Patricia's on there like all the time. So it's just making sure that you are, taking advantage of that space. Realize that that is something that's offered to you and you can really easily utilize it. It's not that big of a pain in the booty. So, and then the last thing, online study tools. So make sure that if something isn't quite, understood and you are having a little bit of trouble for it, definitely reach out to your instructors, go on Yammer, but then also make sure you search. there's definitely a lot of things. I know Audrey posts things on Yammer all the time for her medical terminology class, and those different, study sources she just finds on the internet. So you can definitely try and search for things. Don't just sit there and say, I don't get it. Try and look for those different resources as well. Okay, and then the very last tip that I heard from quite a few students who actually had, finished the program is that it's never too early to think about after school. So not just literally after school the day, but after you graduate or after you get your certification. And this does kind of piggyback off of tip number 9, talking about utilizing your resources. And the big thing that I wanted to say is that a resource that I feel like a lot of people should definitely use, and maybe they don't think about it until after they get their certification, is our career services. So realize that Patricia, who is on Yammer all the time, you should definitely say hey to her if you're one of our students already. If you aren't, if you do see her in the future, you should say hey. But she definitely helps with resumes. She helps with, and I'm actually going to, let me switch over real quick. Okay, there's my face. So definitely what she does is help with resumes, like I said, and then also she really helps with, helping you find an externship, which is basically, it's the same thing as an internship, but around the area that you are. So you're going externally rather than internally within the school. And then also she just basically posts job postings all the time. So make sure that you're just keeping an eye out for that. And you can even have a discussion with her like, hey, I'm getting my certification, but what are some other extra things that I can do in order to separate myself, in order to make myself stand out against all of these other applicants, And then also, I know a lot of our instructors post kind of extracurricular activities that you can be doing or try to do. For instance, we did the Medical Transcription Awards, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and not only did Audrey Kirchner, our instructor, win Educator of the Year, we actually had a student, Linda Curia, who won the Rising Star Award. So yes, that is definitely going to make her stand out as a medical transcriptionist above other people that she's competing for a job, right? So just make sure you're keeping an eye out for those. I do know one thing that's really coming up for people who are interested in legal transcription or in the legal field is Court Observation Week. I'm actually working with Anna McNatt, our legal instructor. She does legal transcription, legal secretary, and paralegal. She is basically looking for students who want to shadow somebody in the legal field. So definitely keep an eye out for that on Facebook. We haven't launched it yet, and maybe later this month, but that is definitely something that you can do, not only to set yourself apart, but in order to make sure that you even really like that field. Like, it's a good way to get a taste of the field beforehand. So, and then as always, if you're not in the legal field, you can find somebody to shadow yourself. So what I would suggest is reaching out to Patricia or your instructor and saying, hey, I would really like to find somebody to shadow. Do you have any suggestions on how I can reach out to somebody, near base or near my home, something like that. So, okay. So those are basically our top 10 tips, and I'll probably be writing these in a blog post later, so if you want them all in one place, or if you want to watch this video later, it definitely will be up on YouTube. But what I'm going to ask you all to do is that if you have a question or even a suggestion, a study tip, or just a back-to-school tip in general on how to kind of get ready for it, go ahead and pop it over in that Q&A box. And if you can't find it, remember, like I said at the beginning of the video, you can go to the right-hand corner and click the square that it's a large square that looks like it has like 6 squares in it. 9 squares. 3 times 3 is 9. So if you click that, you can pop in a Q&A. You can toggle between the Showcase app and the Q&A app. And then also, I'm going to go over, while y'all are asking those questions, I'm going to go over the Showcase app that we have right now. So different things that you can do to get involved with Meditec. So the top item on your Showcase app is our website, of course. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about not only the programs that we offer, but the actual details on each of those programs, you can definitely go to our website. It's super, super informative. And then I also included the link to the How to Block specific websites. So if you're doing studying, maybe you're thinking, even if you're not studying, you're just at work and you want to be able to block those websites, that may be really helpful. And then also the last item is to sign up for a free session with an advisor. So if you'd like a free, no strings attached consulting session, you can go ahead and fill that little form out and we can get you in contact with an admissions advisor. And believe me, they are amazing. So if you're just kind of like, I don't really know what I want to do, they definitely spend a lot of time talking to people about their interest and really getting them connected with fields that fit their style. So, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pop on over to the Q&A app, see if there's any questions. No questions. Anybody? I'm going to give you all a second. Let me check the event real quick. Sorry, guys. This thing with doing things live, sometimes it doesn't, I can't fill the silence the entire time. So let me see. Okay. See if there's any comments on the event. Nope. Any questions? I know sometimes this Q&A app doesn't work very well. Okay. Try one more thing. And be aware that you can also share advice too. Okay. Cool. Well, it looks like questions aren't coming through. I know we had problems with that on one of our episodes. I think this app is a little finicky. But other than that, if you do have suggestions or questions, you can always tweet us. We have a Twitter at Meditec Tweets, and if you want to use the hashtag MediTalksLive, because this is a live event, you can definitely do that. And I would love, love, love to hear your advice and then also see if we can help you be a more successful student. So other than that, I'm going to sign off and we'll actually, oh, I should say this. We have a webinar next week on our top 10 programs with our product manager, Trisha Sharpton, and she will basically be going over some very basic details of each of our top 10 programs. So I'm super excited for that. It's her first webinar with me, but she's amazing and I love her. So if you want to, you can definitely check that out. I have posted that on our Google Plus page and on Facebook, where you can register. It has a link where you can register, as well as all the other back-to-school events that we have. But other than that, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Have a great day.